She unhooked my son's safety harness 30 feet up a climbing wall. He plummeted like a broken toy, and I scaled that same wall to make her pay in blood. Now she hung there, battered, trembling, begging for rules to save her. But on that wall, the only rule was mine. I never planned to raise a child alone. When my wife died in a car accident, something in me shattered, but something else forged steel. My only purpose became protecting Daniel, my son, my lifeline. He was 8 when she passed, barely able to tie his shoes. Now, at 11, he's a climber off trees, fences, anything that dares him to reach higher. We moved to Willow Creek, a quiet suburb in Ohio, hoping for a fresh start, a place where kids could be kids. But instead of peace, we found a prison. And its warden was Susan Marshall, president of the Homeowners Association, dictator of every blade of grass. Susan didn't just manage the HOA, she weaponized it. With her pearl necklace and clipboard, she patrolled our lives like a general. The first time we met, she wasn't smiling. She pointed at Daniel's basketball, accusing him of disrupting the neighborhood's aesthetic balance. I said he was just a kid playing. She snapped, "Maybe you should live somewhere kids belong." 3 fines followed in 2 months. 1 for Daniel climbing a community oak, 1 for a toy dinosaur in our garden, 1 for laughing too loudly near the HOA's precious fountain. Susan didn't hate Daniel for his actions. She hated him for his freedom, for reminding her of what she'd lost. I saw it in her clenched jaw, her twitching fingers. She didn't see a boy. She saw rebellion. I should have seen the signs. I should have known what someone like Susan does when resentment and power mix. But I wasn't ready when she climbed that wall and reached for Daniel's safety line. God help her, I would be. Susan Marshall didn't lead the HOA, ruled it. No vote passed without her approval. No Christmas lights went up unless they met her color palette. She banned birdhouses, fined a retired teacher for a weathered mailbox, and measured how far a toddler's tricycle strayed onto the sidewalk. She didn't enforce order. She erased individuality. And kids? To her, they were vandals of her perfect lawns. With Daniel, it was personal. It started with glares that sliced through playground noise, then escalated to letters taped to our door. Your son climbed the maple in lot 12. It's decorative, not a jungle gym. Your basketball disrupts visual harmony. Laughter must not exceed 70 decibels near the fountain. I laughed it off at first, thinking she was just a bored busybody. Then I saw her flinch when Daniel waved at her, his bright, fearless grin hitting her like an insult. I confronted her once after she trailed him on his bike route. "Why are you stalking my kid?" I demanded. She didn't blink. "Some people shouldn't breed, Mr. Carter. You're clearly not cut out for parenting." I nearly lost it, but Daniel was watching. I swallowed my rage, vowing she wouldn't break us. But Susan didn't want to win. She wanted to crush. And on the day she climbed that wall, smiling, pretending, and reached for Daniel's harness, she crossed a line she couldn't uncross. The morning was too bright, the climbing wall glowing under the Ohio sun. Daniel was electric, bouncing with excitement for the HOA's new adventure peak, a project Susan championed. Streamers fluttered, cupcakes lined tables, and a banner read, "Climbing to Community Excellence." What a lie. Susan stood center stage in a red tracksuit, microphone clipped to her chest, smugness radiating. "I'll climb with the kids today," she announced. Leadership means showing the way. I watched her position herself beside Daniel. He didn't notice, too thrilled, waving at me from the first hold. "Watch this, Dad." I smiled. "Slow and steady, champ." Susan glanced at me, her eyes sharp as glass. She climbed higher, speaking into her mic. "Always check your harness, kids. Safety first." Then she did it. Her fingers slid toward Daniel's carabiner, unhooking it just enough to look secure. One slip, and it would give. I screamed, "Daniel, stop." Too late. His foot slipped. The harness snapped. He fell 30 feet, hitting the padded base with a sickening thud. His cry wasn't a scream, just a choked gasp. I shoved through the crowd, dropping to his side. "Daniel, stay with me." His arm was twisted, shoulder dislocated, blood trickling from his mouth. He whispered, "Dad, I slipped." "No, she did this." Susan descended calmly, still holding her mic, still smiling. She didn't look at Daniel. "This is why we stress safety," she told the crowd. "Some kids don't listen." I stood, fists bleeding from clenching. "You unhooked him," I growled. She raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me. I saw you tamper with his gear." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Susan leaned in, mic on, and hissed, "He belongs on the ground, like his father." My vision tunneled. Rage replaced grief. I didn't scream. I climbed. I tore off my jacket, Daniel's blood still wet on the sleeve, and wrapped it around my fist. No harness, no rope, just fury. I scaled the wall, my pulse drowning out the shouts below. Susan was halfway up, waving to the crowd, playing savior. "See? Safe if you follow rules." I reached her level in seconds, hands scraped raw. She turned and saw me. Her mask slipped, fear flashing before she recovered. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "I'm exactly where I need to be," I snarled. "You tried to kill my son." She reached for her whistle. I slapped it away, the plastic sailing into the wind. "Don't be stupid, Mr. Carter," she hissed. "I've been thinking clearly since you smiled while my son bled." She stepped back, slipping. I hooked my foot into an anchor and clipped a carabiner to brace myself. "Look down, Susan," I whispered. "It's a long fall." She scrambled, gloves fumbling. "You're not thinking straight," she stammered. I lunged. She gasped, grabbing a rope to avoid falling. "You planned this," I roared. "You unhooked him so you could blame him." "That's slander." "That's truth." I grabbed her jacket and slammed her forehead into the wall. She shrieked, blood smearing the fiberglass. The crowd gasped, some filming, some running. I pinned her again, twice, until she sagged, dazed. "You don't get to hide behind rules now," I said. "Not after you turned this wall into a weapon." I ripped her harness cord free, wrapped it around her chest, and yanked her off balance, slamming her against the holds as I descended. She screamed, her mic crackling, her hair unraveling. At the base, I kicked her knees out. She collapsed, coughing blood, surrounded by stunned neighbors. "I should have let you fall," I growled. "But I want you awake for this." I turned to the crowd. Everyone she's fined for a lawn ornament, harassed for a pet, insulted for being a parent line-up. This is your wall too. Susan lay bloodied on the turf she'd once fined a mother for staining. I dragged her to the pavilion's steel post, looping climbing ropes around her torso, shoulders, and ankles. "This is a lesson," I growled, "and the neighborhood's teaching it." A father stepped forward. She called my son's bike a visual blight. An elderly woman added, "She fined my rose bushes for being too red." A teen raised his hand. She banned my crutches for clashing with the sidewalk. I tossed the ropes to the crowd. "Pull." 6 neighbors grabbed the cords and yanked. Susan's face scraped the pavement, her screams echoing. Again, I barked. They pulled harder, her body slamming into the wall's base. "Stop," she croaked. "I have rights." "You had power," I said. "You abused it." I crouched, staring into her terrified eyes. "You made us prisoners. Now they're using your ropes to hang you." The final tug slammed her into the post. She slumped, whimpering. The crowd clapped, the sound growing into a roar. I wasn't done. I grabbed more cords and strapped Susan to the wall, arms outstretched, her bloodied HOA badge taped to her forehead. "This wall isn't your monument anymore," I shouted. "It's your shame." I smashed her mic against the wall, sparks flying. This is what happens when power forgets people, when fear pretends to be order, when a child's blood is treated like a lawn violation. The wind howled. Susan blinked into the sun, broken, exposed. They left her there for hours. The HOA's vice president mumbled about calling the police, but no one moved. Neighbors passed by, silent, staring. By sunset, someone taped a citation to her leg. Crimes against humanity. By morning, her HOA account was suspended, her clubhouse access revoked. Her husband, Tom, filed for divorce, walking out with their cat and a suitcase. Susan watched from her window, a bandage on her forehead. Our eyes met. She closed the blinds. At an emergency HOA meeting, I stood among 40 furious residents. "She built this place on fear," I said, holding Susan's shattered mic. "She fined kids for kites, shamed families for barbecues, told a war vet his flag was tacky." Voices erupted. "She banned my tulips." She reported my dog for barking. The vote to ban Susan from the HOA for life took 3 minutes. Unanimous. That night, I sat with Daniel, his arm in a sling. "Is she gone, Dad?" he asked. "She's not gone," I said, "but she's powerless." He nodded. "Did you win?" I looked at Susan's dark house across the street. She lost everything she built, but I didn't do it to win. I did it to show her she was never untouchable. The next day, the climbing wall was torn down, the steel post burned in a bonfire. Neighbors watched, some crying, most silent. The lot became a wild patch of gravel where kids now ride bikes and dogs dig. No one rebuilt it. That wall was Susan's throne. Now it was her ruin. Susan's house went dark. Weeks later, a rusted moving van took her away. No heirlooms, just necessities, like she was fleeing her own fire. She didn't say goodbye. Rumor has it she works at a gas station 2 counties over, invisible, voiceless. Willow Creek came alive. Kids drew chalk murals. A family hung a pride flag. Veterans planted a garden where the wall once stood. The new HOA board carried tools, not clipboards. I didn't become a hero. I just walked Daniel to school, watching him smile again. One evening, Daniel traced the scar on his shoulder. "Do you hate her?" he asked. "No," I said. "Hate's her poison. I don't forgive her, but I won't carry her with me." He smiled. "Would you do it again?" "Every time." I climbed that wall not to conquer Susan, but to bury her tyranny. The lot where it stood is now messy, free, perfect. Daniel runs through it, fearless. So do I. What do you think? Have you faced a Susan in your life, someone who used power to shrink others? Share your story in the comments. Was my response to her violence justified, or did it go too far? Take a stand. Your voice matters. Like, subscribe, and share this to remind others what standing up looks like. Because justice doesn't wait, it climbs.